let's flow. Let's connect and flow. This podcast is not here to challenge or dismantle or replace anyone's faith. I deeply honor religious traditions and the role they play in providing structure, meaning, and connection to the Creator or for creation. What I share here is simply just another perspective, one that expanded my understanding over time. You are invited to listen with curiosity, not to agree, not to keep what keep what resonates and leave what doesn't. The theme for part 4 is heaven is a destination, or is it a remembrance? At some point, every belief system has to answer a question of death. We talked about that last week. What happens when we end? Where do we go? What does it really mean to return to God? We talked about that last week. How we answer these questions shapes what we think, how we move, how we live. The theme today in episode 4 is awakening through expansion, not conversion. That is simply misunderstood. People think it's rejecting God when we tap into something new, that we walk away from God when we're just looking for more. It is simply about seeing more clearly. It is simply about stepping into the expansive abyss and asking a question. And for me, it brought the divine or God or creator closer. So I want to thank you very much for joining me today. Okay, hold on just a second. I am going to find my hold on just a second. Here we go. I think it's going to show up in a minute. I'm just waiting. Okay, there we go. Sometimes you just have to be patient. I'm learning to be patient. All right. So I welcome you as you come in. Today we're talking about religiosity and awakening, and how awakening is often misunderstood, especially when you're deconstructing from religious beliefs that no longer serve you. Deconstruction is not a bad thing. Religiosity is not a bad thing. Those are choices. Spirituality is a choice. For me, spirituality was my soul recalling to me where it came from and what it desired to do in my body. The more I asked questions, the more it led me to an understanding, to a more of my thought process, my inner thought process, that my conscious or unaware conscious mind at that time was in the driver's seat. Okay. And then the more online my soul came into being, and the more my soul talked to my unconscious mind, the more I became aware. Okay, so I truly believe that every human being is conscious. We're conscious that we were born, and we are conscious and aware that we're going to die. But now we are aware that our mind is not in the driver's seat, unless you want it to be. And those who believe that the mind is the creator, they're not wrong, because the creator is seeking through expansive awareness or even through conversion itself. The moment that I just realized that helped me to understand, guys, the infinite possibilities of choices of your thought. A thought, if you hold it long enough, becomes energy or fills up the energy in your belief system. If you act on a belief system long enough, it becomes the energy of your truth. And truth, or the energy, is seeking to be material based from what you think about continually. And most of the time, the way I learned it is, if you're thinking about truth based on a belief that you've had or based on an expression that you've had for a long time, whether it's being taught to you from the outside in or from the inside out, that becomes material. It becomes form. Okay, so let's get started. Take what resonates, leave what doesn't. Awakening is often misunderstood. Many people think it's when you have an awakening, it's about rejecting something else that is already prominent or present in your life, right? So many people think that awakening is rejection of what you've been taught. Some people think it's about abandoning faith or walking away from God. Like I've said in episodes past, I have individuals even up to this day telling me, I turned my back on Jesus. I need to have an awakening. I need to come to Jesus moment and rededicate my life so that I will earn a place in heaven. And because they say that, and because they believe that, that's their manifested truth. It doesn't have to be mine, right? So for many of us, leaving or having a spiritual awakening, asking more questions, and continually stepping forward into the unknown, making the unknown known, it's not about leaving anything behind. It's about an expansion of openness, of wholeness, seeing the bigger picture, right? So for me, I began to see things more clearly from the inside out. So for others, it can also be seeing things more clearly, how they want to expand on the information that they've been given. Have I outgrown it? Right? Well, I don't want to feel the conversion anymore into something that's not for my highest and greatest good. Right? So awakening, your awakening can be about expansion. You're not leaving anything behind. Religiosity might teach you that you're leaving something behind, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's true. At the same time, for those who hold that as a possibility and then act on it, it is their truth. And they're going to share it with you. They feel obligated. I just learned that I wasn't obligated to accept what they were sharing. I could say no. For me, awakening, or my awakening, didn't remove me from God in my life. It opened up an inner dialogue with the God in me. The Creator and I got closer together. You could almost say, if you want to use the word, it was an intimate relationship. Right? It's about expansion. Or at least it's expansion for me, not about conversion anymore. I wasn't converted. I didn't walk down the aisle and get baptized the first time in my Baptist church. That's what you did. That was your come to Jesus moment, walking down that aisle, accepting God as your Lord and Savior, and getting and then setting the date for your baptism. Okay. For me, I began to have a more intimate relationship with the divine God or creator that was within me, soul, or higher power, or spirit, whatever your label is. It helped me become more present in my now moments. It started a trajectory of being less in fear-based moments. Take what resonates, leave what doesn't. I heard it said just this way, and I love it. It was just a random person that I don't know where I was, grocery store, who knows where I was. And they said an awakening for them wasn't like becoming something new. It was, they were remembering who they were. So once again, that was meant for me as a support system from the divine, that was actually said at that moment, at that time. And I never saw that person again. Right? For me, I began to understand that awakening is expansion, not rejection on your part. If you're having an awakening, it's not that you're rejecting something else. You're asking a question about that something else. And it's an internal question. Internal versus external, being pushed or told that religion is this or spirituality is that. You go, for me, it was all these questions were coming from within. Some people have been told that they're abandoning their faith when they're asking these embodiment questions. When they're having, you're having that quote, and they throw the air quotes in, you're having an awakening experience. What's that all about? Been there, done that. I'm here to tell you, people will always do that. The moment you say, I'm having an awakening, or I had my awakening, or I had my dark night of the soul, or whatnot, they're going to throw the air quotes and say, oh, you're abandoning your faith. You stop loving God. Take what resonates, leave what doesn't. Me growing up in a Baptist religious background was where I was supposed to start. That was the catalyst that my mother and my grandmother, and who knows, great-grandmother, great-grandfather, grandfather, and father, spiritually, their souls chose to start there. So I could have my awakening moment. I believe I was having my awakening moment as when I was a toddler. I was always asking questions. Some awakening moments help you to realign yourself. And a person might only have that one awakening moment to realign them and push them on a new trajectory and a new path. It doesn't mean They may never ever leave their church, but they're sitting in the pews or the seats with a new ability to ask more embodying questions. For many people, awakening begins when old answers that they've had before stop working, and you're encouraged from within to ask new questions that will make you feel better. Some questions will make you feel rebellious, or some questions are thought to be rebellious by others. And some people often have grief about this, about their awakenings, because they feel like they're leaving everybody else behind. And some people have relief with their awakening. Some people have confusion with their awakening. None of these things are wrong. Your awakening is happening where you are living life at. And you're rubbing up against belief systems that you've had living that life. Nothing wrong with it. Some people feel a rush or a convergence of freedom. And some people feel constricted by it because they don't want to leave what they know. Gloria Steinem said, "The truth will set you free, but first you will make, or the truth will set you free, but first it will make you feel uncomfortable." And I remember asking these embodying questions as an adult after my 30s, somewhere around my late 30s, early 40s. Right? Did the questions that I asked make me feel uncomfortable? When I was younger, I felt fearless. I was never uncomfortable about the questions that I asked because I had an intermediary in between me and the people in the church that I was asking the question to, which was my mother. But my mother passed away in my 30s. So there wasn't a buffer anymore. So when I asked this question again, right, did my beliefs begin to feel tight rather than supportive? And when I answered that from the inside out, it just rocked my world. Matter of fact, what I believe was my world was toppling over. My first dark night of the soul was so uncomfortable. But nonetheless, I had to go through it. Why? To get to the other side of it. Did my internal questions make me feel honest? It opened up a lot with me that I had to be honest and truthful about. I had to ask the questions, what just expanded in me? What expanded in me before this total change occurred? I had to go back and ask those questions. Awareness or having a awakening is about the internal work, and I don't like that word work, but the internal journey within you, the playtime you have with yourself. It's When it's hard, we call it work or difficult. Those are taught language. But I also got to ask, how does my body respond when I allow it not to have answers? That was when I was beginning to just go with the flow. And man, that shit is uncomfortable. But I had to ask those questions. What expanded in me before anything changed outwardly? How does my body respond when I allow myself not to have any answers? I'm going to tell you at first, it hurt everywhere. My shoulders, the back of my neck. I always kept a pain in my lower back. My body started talking to me. And my unconscious mind was riding along on overdrive. And what I found out, guys, is awakening often begins in your body. It stirs a question. What is it saying? Is there contraction around fear-based teachings that you've had for so long that aren't fitting the narrative of the story before you? Is your mind saying that's not logical sense, and then your body says, "Oh, we need to be uncomfortable with this with the brain. We need to be in alignment with the unconsciousness says that doesn't make sense." There is an expansion around truth that resonates. What's your truth? Is it resonating for you? Is it beginning to feel logical from it being internal instead of external? Take what resonates, leave what doesn't. I'm not saying religious religion is taboo and you have your first or second or third awakening, you need to not be that. You can have an awakening and you can become very aware and still stay in your church until such time as there is a situation or circumstance that rubs up against you to open up change. Some say that awakening often feels like relief. For others, it is not relief. It's scary because the information is going against what your mind says is logical, because it's looking at your outside exterior life as reality. Just taking a pause there. Take what resonates, leave what doesn't. So awakening doesn't always sound logical. It often feels like relief for someone else, like breathing again, or like being given permission to be whole. At the same time, sometimes awakenings, people feel like they have to force them, therefore their body has a spasm because you're trying to force what doesn't fit yet. right? This is why awakenings can't be forced. You can force it. You can do anything you want to do, but you're going to feel what you're going to feel. That's your nervous system, telling you, I'm not safe. I don't see this clearly. It doesn't make sense from uh, uh, the outside coming in. Believe me, been there, done that. Still, on occasion, my ego has a moment where it gets in a flurry. It's all over the place. That's when I go back to the questions. Here are 3 or 4 questions that might help you, that help me. What beliefs create tension or heaviness in my body? Ask yourself, what beliefs create tension or heaviness in my body? What beliefs bring softness or relief? I had to ask that. Softness or relief, especially while you're feeling them as they're happening, because you're feeling them in your body as they're happening. Your body isn't lying to you. It's telling you exactly what you need to know. When do I feel most like myself? Know thyself. Ask an embodying question. So I'm going to say those questions again. Write it down or put it in your voice memo, whatever you choose to do. What beliefs create tension or heaviness in my body? What beliefs bring softness or relief to or in my body? Right? Welcome in, my good friend Grace. Last question. What does my body trust? Talk to your body. It's your body. What does my body trust even when my mind is unsure? Your mind and your body can be in 2 different thought processes. But the only way you're going to know is if you internally ask you a question. Here is what many people have thought about awakening. Sovereignty and grace can't coexist. That's what they thought. Sovereignty and grace can't coexist. I thought that too. I thought I had to have one or the other. One of the biggest fears around sovereignty is the idea that grace disappears. But grace doesn't disappear. What happens is you become responsible within the grace. You're actually using the grace to show responsibility. How are you going to take it? How are things going to happen? How are you going to walk through this? How am I going to walk with my head held high? Grace says, I've worked out an arrangement with my body. When I ask, it will inform me, and I trust every time. Me as well. Sometimes I forget to ask. Right? So this is one of the biggest fears for some people, not for everyone. But I know I had this, when I was learning about sovereignty, I was then going, well, then what's grace? Right? Is it going to be gone? It's always done me a good service. I always felt good about it. Right? Grace says sometimes she forgets to ask too. Sometimes I just wake up and go instead of having that moment where I'm asking my embodying questions for my next, for the next version of myself. But what I found out, understanding my soul's sovereignty, is I found out that grace becomes the space that allows learning. It allows for growth. It allows for compassion without fear. It allowed for me to give a homeless person $1 and not fear what they're going to use it on. Oh, they're just going to use it on drugs, so I'm never going to give them any money. Grace allows for me to just say, if they ask, may I have $1? Do you have $1 on hand? No, I don't have it right now, but when I come out the store, we'll handle this. And then when I go and I put it in my pocket so I don't have to open my purse in front of them. And then I go, when I leave, I remember to give it to them. That's grace for me. I just use that as an example. For me, I learned that grace doesn't leave me. I don't have to exchange it. I don't have to exchange it for sovereignty. Grace becomes the space that allows learning, growth, and compassion, and it allows it without fear. I believe if grace could speak, it would say, you are loved while you learn. You are held while you grow. Grace would say, you're not abandoned. You're not abandoned because you became aware. For me, take what resonates and leave what doesn't. I'm certainly not preaching at you. I'm just saying this is what I learned. Grace says, grace allows you the time to figure it out. It allows you to learn and grow. Exactly. We are on or in this timeline, this third density timeline, and time exists simply so we can have as many journeys as we want to have. Whether it's religious or spirituality based, those are choices. Nothing's wrong with them. But time, through grace, gives us an opportunity to have the journey, to make a decision, to take action on that decision. And we get to discern it, or if you want to call it judgment, go ahead and call it judgment. If you want to judge yourself, judge yourself. But the divine and your soul is not judging you. It's saying, tell me more about this situation we're in. Grace gives you time to sit down internally, that you made, the situation that showed up, and how body, mind, and soul you're going to go through with it, or fight against it. Choices, right? Here's a Bible verse that I believe my grandmother, not my mom, I believe it was my grandmother, shared with me. Matthew 11:28, I think. It's in the red letters because I remember the red letters when she was reading it. Come to me, all who are weary and burdened. I will give you rest. The consciousness, or Jesus consciousness, said, you will have rest. I just did a inspirational video, my inspirational video. It's the 5th video about sleep being your reset button. Sleep, rest, daydreaming being your reset button. If a phone can have a reset and a computer can have a reset, you can have a reset as well. And when you reset and sleep and have a restorative, regenerative, rejuvenating sleep, you wake up to hit the reset button and start the situation or circumstance a little differently than before you went to bed with it. It's a choice. You could stay in the energy of what you're already going through, or you get to go, let me take a look at this now. Let me see what we're going to do today, because today is a new now moment. I am resetting. I am stepping into the version of me that wants this situation and circumstance to be done with. What do I have to do? And no one said it was easy breezy. Okay. Some people believe that grace is the removal of responsibility. Having grace means that you are responsible. It brings you in to that vibrational moment where you become responsible for your situation, your circumstance. Whether or not you want to go all the way back to how that situation or circumstance happened, you are responsible for resetting and cleaning it up if you choose. Free will choices. Grace is not the removal of self-responsibility. Grace says, this is why I call my page Saved Through Grace. It allows me time to lock inside, to adjust my frequency for my highest purpose. I love that. Know thyself. Grace is not the removal of responsibility. It is the removal of what you might call shame. Grace gives you the infinite possibility to make a mistake, learn from it, and grow and evolve. Some mistakes give you character. Some mistakes show you exactly where you might, when you consider it, went wrong and what you can choose the next go around. So I had to ask myself, how do I feel making mistakes? Was love in my life conditional or unconditional? Coming from other people, very conditional. Therefore, I said, well, it has to start with me. In order to show somebody how to unconditionally love me, I have to learn how to unconditionally love myself, or unconditionally love others. Yeah, grace gives you time so that you don't beat yourself up. Okay? How do I treat myself when I'm still learning? Just like Grace says, grace gives you time to become aware that you're beating yourself up because of a mistake. What would grace feel like in my body? Not just in my beliefs, in my actual body as I'm actually living the experience using the grace that's within me. It's not an either or. Of my soul is sovereign, and now all grace has left. Grace was part of you coming in. Take what resonates. What works for one person will not work probably for another person. What works for me, maybe you have to shift or tweak it, but only you will know that in that know thyself portion of you. I truly believe that awakening doesn't destroy faith. Some religiosity might say, "Oh, you're not keeping the faith. You're just using that awakening to gloss over things." I've had a few people tell me that, right? Awakening helps you mature to the point that you learn to ask more questions. For me, awakening gave me comfortability. Hold on a second. Let me. Okay. I was looking so I could put the comments on the screen. It lets me put the comments one by one. So we'll keep doing it that way. Oh, and having an awakening or having a awakened moment or moving into a different vibrational field as you're becoming more aware of the God within doesn't destroy your faith. It matures it, at least for me. Take what resonates, leave what doesn't. Early faith often needs structure. The faith-based origin story gives you rules. It already gives you the answers without asking a question. It gives you the ability to insist external authority has a place in your story. Faith, regardless of whether it's coming from awakening or religiosity, needs or requires information. Awakening doesn't say you're wrong. It says you're ready, then you're more ready than you know. For some, they believe that awakening is about betrayal, that you're betraying something, you're betraying God. Because you're taking that limited perception that you had about God, and now you're asking and embodying question more about God coming, and you're asking it from within, and it's going to give you infinite possibilities. That's called growth. And the universe promises that everything changes. That's growth. Everything changes, and evolution will always occur. Let me ask you a question. Can you think of your past self instead of judging your past self? Can you have an embodying question for your past self without without judging it first? Without saying, well, isn't judgment just discernment? You have to judge it before you can discern it. For me, that negates the purpose of having discernment and asking a question, being curious. But guess what? If you want to do one at first and then make your way to the second one, if it works for you, take what resonates. Infinite possibilities. I'm just saying, for me, it didn't work. I had to go more within myself because everything from the outside in was not conducive to body, mind, and soul for me. Awakening for me offered choices. Conversion for me offered a choice that was deemed by someone else and did not work for my highest and greatest good. This series is never about convincing you to be someone that you're not supposed to be. You do exactly you. Know thyself before you do you is a good possibility. Ask embodying questions or inquisitive questions or not. Notice what brings you peace. Notice what brings you fear. Notice what expands you. Notice what contracts you. I'm going to share some embodiment questions with you. If you want to write it down, write it down. If you don't, don't. Which beliefs bring you closer to peace? I'm going to take a sip of water. Okay. Which beliefs that you have going on right now bring you closer to peace? What beliefs create anxiety in you? What beliefs create pressure in you? What beliefs affect your body and your relationship with yourself? And the pièce de résistance question: what am I allowed to question without forcing an answer? What question do I get to ask through my curiosity that I don't have to have an answer right this minute? I can let the question flow in, and I can flow with the answer as it's being revealed. Your awakening is not about becoming spiritual. It's about remembering your wholeness. It's about your higher self waking up to its call, to its own voice. For me, it was wholeness, knowing that I was born worthy. I was born sovereign. I was born with this connection to the divine within me. I may have grown up at a certain point with society telling me that God is on the outside. Definitely did grow up with that religiosity teaching. Doesn't make it right or wrong. Doesn't make my mother right or wrong. Doesn't make my father right or wrong. Doesn't make my great grandmother or great grandfather wrong. It's the choices that they made to have the exact moment for me to come on the scene and have the choices to make in this journey called Sandra. That's right, I'm a journey. For me, it was the moment that I stopped striving to be saved and I allowed myself to just be present. I allowed myself to be curious of ancient truths that came before the Bible that I was being taught out of. For me, because every time someone, family or friends, whether they're family or friends, wanted to have the discussion that I needed to have a come to Jesus moment or come back to Jesus moment, they would always pull out the Bible. It would always be the King James Version. It would always be what was rewritten since the 1700s in the male version of how the Bible should be or was. And always directing God to be a him or a he. For me, I had my embodying questions. There was a intuitive awareness that there was more than just this story. I had to start asking, what is feeling familiar in me? What is true deep inside me? I had to know thyself, my own self. What is this internal connection trying to tell me? Does it feel like remembering, recalling, or becoming? For me, it was in the steps that I was taking all three. For me, I understood that this is growth and these are the steps that I had to take. But for you, it might be totally different. Take what resonates, leave what doesn't. You don't have to believe what I believe. Just ask yourself these questions gently. Give yourself grace because you were born with it. Go deep inside and call it up. Ask yourself, do these beliefs bring me closer to my peace? Closer to my responsibility without shame? Do these beliefs bring me closer to unconditional love for myself and for others? And if you find your answer within is yes, honor it. Or no, honor it. Because even if you say no, you're going to have another embodying question that takes you into that rabbit hole of the no. Awakening doesn't demand agreement. It invites you to be honest with yourself. It invites you to be open with yourself being sovereign. Sovereign doesn't negate anything that you've done in your past. Being sovereign incorporates it so that you can grow and expand and become more than what you were in the past now moment, whether it was past yesterday, last year, or the year before that, or 10 years ago, or your past now moment from just 30 seconds. What is your belief gently asking you to soften? What am I allowing myself to release or surrender or replace? These are all embodying questions for you. What does peace feel like in my body? As we close, I want you to remember sovereignty isn't about rebellion, it's about remembrance or recalling. Sovereignty isn't here to tame you. It's here to free you so that you can run free and become anything or anybody that you want to become. It doesn't mean that you have carte blanche to be bullies to someone else. Because you say, well, now I found out that I'm sovereign, I'm better than you because you haven't gotten to this space. You're still in, your religious humdrum. That's not for us to say or do. You certainly can do it, but what you put out into the universe, definitely the energy comes back to you. Your words and your actions are very powerful tools. They can be a weapon or they can be creative tools. You choose. Right? You choose. Awakening doesn't destroy faith. Awakening doesn't destroy what you've already learned, what you've already been through, the problems or the situations or the pain. It helps amplify it so that you can see it better, to make better choices. Your awakenings help you mature. Your awakenings help you to grow and expand. I'm going to share some comments. The time to see where you went wrong and correct it. The difference is the wonderful thing that makes us unique. Exactly. Authentic. Yes, we exactly. This is why we need to be mindful of our actions. Right? With some religiosity depends on you following the rules. When I was growing up, the rules were big. And it was, don't do as I do as I say in the church. And I would always ask, well, that doesn't, the word I know to use now is that's spiritually doesn't vibrate with me. I see you doing actions, but their action doesn't hold up with your words that you just an hour ago in church were saying. But when I see you on a Monday, you're doing something totally different. And you're supposed to be calling yourself the minister or pastor or deacon or holy parishioner, right? And you can do no wrong because nobody's going to tell on you, but the universe knows, right? Let's see. This is why we must be mindful of our actions prior to acting. Yeah. For me, that's the difference between having discerning and judging. Because if you're judging it, you go right into reaction. But if you take the time to ask an embodying question about what a situation, circumstance, or a conversation, you'll get to ask pertinent questions that bring information to you about how you're going to take action. Right? I mean, this is episode 4. This is the final episode of this podcast series. And like I said, I'm not here to make you decide whether you want to be sovereign or have, whether you've had a origin story of sovereignness or an origin story of sinfulness, it's for you to decide which story works for you, how it grows you, how it works in your everyday life. And you get to ask embodying questions just like I did. Awakening is expansion. It's not rejection. But most people see your expansion as rejecting God outside of you. And then once they throw the dagger, they want to turn it. But you get the choice to express yourself, whether it's reactionary or through discernment about what you're doing, whether you're going through a dark night of the soul. Sometimes I don't even explain that to my family members that want me to go through a come to Jesus moment. That I went through my dark night of the soul, and I know where the divine has called me, but they're not going to understand it that way. But I do allow my throat chakra to have a discerning answer for them. It may not be what they want to hear, but it's not aggressive towards them. My ego used to want to get up there and leave her alone. Just leave me alone because I'm going my own way. There's a song that go your own way, But now I just leave it alone. Go with the flow. Let them be entitled to what they want to, how they want to believe about me. What's that got to do with me anyway? What's their perception really got to do with me? Absolutely nothing. It changes nothing. It's there for purpose. So I have to go, is this for me to have a moment to teach or to inspire? And I go into my higher self because I know my ego wants to take the moment to just down to size, but that's no. And I don't mean like fist fight, but I mean like just verbally, But if they're not ready, they're not ready. And only the divine knows, and the divine will share that with me. And then I, ask the divine, well, then you give me the words. You're my higher, you've come online. I can't turn back now. I can't turn back now. Right? So take what resonates. This is the last episode in this series. And I thank you for joining me. And there will be a new series coming next week, Monday at 4 p.m. on live streaming on your YouTube and Facebook. And it will also be in replay on my Spotify. So thank you for joining me. Thank you, Grace, for supporting me. And for all those who are seeing this in replay, take what resonates, leave what doesn't. This isn't about judgment. This isn't about telling you what to do, when to do, or how to do. I shared information about me and my awakening and how my ego process took me through certain steps that eventually I had to ask embodying questions from the inside out instead of taking or allowing my ego to bring all the information from the outside in. Right? So, everyone, have a beautiful evening. See you next Monday, 4 p.m. not Eastern Standard Time, 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, live streaming on Facebook and YouTube, replay on Spotify. See you there. Bye.